What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Seek the Edge podcast. And I am beyond excited because y'all think I'm crazy. There's a whole nother human here that I met you at the Armory, which is where I go to train. And this guy had this massive sauna on the outside. And I'm like, what person from Ohio, because there's not many people like you in Ohio. And I was like, what person from Ohio has this massive outdoor sauna? Then you probably had 8 to 10 guys go in and out and do breath work and stuff. And I was like, I want to learn more about you. So we have Brian Peters here. I'm really excited to have you a part of this and dig into, yes, that part, but then also you as a human, because I think that's honestly more even fascinating than just what you talk about breath work wise.
Yeah. The sauna is always an attention grabber.
Yeah.
That came organically through how I found some of the breathing in the sauna world in general. And we just wanted to get it to more humans.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple young studs, kind of different hippie style humans that were into the sauna culture. And then we found this kind of sauna guru in Minnesota back in the day. And eventually we built that. I call that one like a 16-person mobile sauna, but it's built into a trailer. It's kind of unassuming until we slapped the logos and stuff on the outside. And you can just pull it up and share sauna with any human that wants to hop in. That's so cool. It ends up becoming kind of like a lightning rod thing. So I just completed my second one. That's like a 26-person mobile unit, and it's just
it's 26. I thought it was 16.
No, it's mass. So
that's a crew.
So the old sauna had that waiting room in it. This one's all sauna, and so nice. It was super fun. I love working with my hands in general. So going from basically stripping the inside of the trailer out all the way to the finished model, and I've already got 10,000 miles on it this year. So,
oh my gosh!
So
and he travels all the time too.
No, so I'm a full budget. I like helping people, meeting people, sharing what I do. I think what I do, just like from a perspective standpoint, helps humans. Then after that, it's okay. Like, what tools work now? What tools? And like that's how I found the breathing stuff. Anyways, I want to get better at football. And like, So it's like all those things. And I love the name of the podcast. Like my self-talk while I was playing football, while I was getting cut from a bunch of leagues that weren't leagues I wanted to be in either, was chasing edges. Like I got to keep chasing edges, and I need priorities on what I need to chase and what will maximize my potential. So obviously I love your mindset, what you do. I haven't done some of the crazier things that like you've done, but obviously I like the frequency you put out is abnormally awesome.
I
so like in general, like I think humans like us kind of always magnetize in some way, shape, or form, and then help as many humans as possible along the way.
That's the goal. Yeah. I mean, that's the goal, So I want to dig into your story a little bit.
Okay.
And we can go as deep or as shallow as you want to go. But for me, I grew up being an athlete, and like that was a big identity for me. And I didn't go even close to the extent that you did, but what I was challenged with is when that identity, I was no longer an athlete on the outside. Like I didn't play a sport. I wasn't part of a team. That rocked me for a little while. And I know a lot of people in our community too. It's like you had that athlete identity. They don't realize that they're always an athlete inside, but the outside's taken. And then they're like, okay, now what do I go after? Like what goal do I have? And I know you played football.
Well, I love that space because I'm planting roots in that space.
Yeah.
Right now, I've been through it multiple times at multiple levels myself. Obviously, transitioned from like NFL to whatever you want to call it, real world, Gen Pop, whatever. Yeah. But it happens at high school. Like I still have friends that like haven't changed that identity. They still hang on to the regrets of their development and things like that. I see it happen at college all the time, particularly like doesn't matter, D1, D3, it doesn't matter. It shows up. And I think it's really, again, like a lack of a coaching or understanding self, like what do I identify with and why, and how you pick your tribe. All these things weave together, but just to like hit that identity piece on the head, I think we identify with the wrong things.
Oh, okay, go on that.
Well, I think we like it's just a common it's like a common trap because that's how we compartmentalize the world, and or we also seek what we want and like what we chase. So when you start breaking down what really makes all these identities for you, it's your capability. So I'm a believer that you shouldn't identify with too much that can change. Because like at a massive scale, like this is a exaggeration, but at some point you're going to go from like daughter to mother to grandmother. So like those things are changed. And then obviously like losing a child is a crazy example, but like it's going to rock your identity. But like the capability that you have as a human, whether it is actually to physically have kids or the nurturing, caring, like, and like leader side of that being a mother is, whatever it ends up being, it's always going to change. Everything in life's always going to change. Like that change is the only constant. So when you start sorting these titles, let alone job titles, sports titles, things like that, athlete, again, I think Nike nailed it on the head where like if you can move, you're an athlete. And I think everybody can view the world that way and you can develop your capability that way. And just because you're not playing a sport, I think that's also a choice. There's plenty of recreational sports hobbies that are still athletic that but we stop competing. And like that's like the one of the puzzle pieces that I try and encapsulate this example to is like, okay, if you can identify with your capability, that's where chasing edges and seeking edges becomes a lifestyle. Because now I can always work on my capabilities. And I think capabilities are what lead like these levels of competence in certain categories of life, capabilities in life. That's what leads to confidence, which leads to how I view, like, I think a lot of it is just like our view with certainty and uncertainty. So it's your ability to take risks and bet on yourself, which I think not enough humans do because we have this like very structured form of education to employment to hopefully these happy, magical end game retirement scenarios that I don't think serve the human, because I think human, like in my head, the most important point, like the root of human happiness is growth. Whether you're and like growth doesn't mean bank account all the time. It doesn't mean promotions. It can be depth of relationships, enjoyment of experience, peace, like these levels of things that I don't think people tangibilize all the time, like their bank account. So it's like, okay, like where can we grow our capability and what is growth to me? And if we reframe that, I think you can, when I work with humans and how I view most of our problems that we suffer from perspective are that we can dissolve most of our problems instead of solve them.
That's good. Okay.
So like if we start viewing our problems and I play like a why game with journaling and stuff, but like ask yourself why 5 times or like ask somebody why they believe something 5 times. And most people only know a 1 sheet. And so get them to the roots of what they believe, and you'll find out that everything's kind of malleable and or can be challenged or changed. And so it's like, okay, life gets really fun because now you're just playing this eternal game of kind of like that game at the fair where you spray water and the horses go forward. Okay, like where do I need to spend more time?
Right.
Like, and I believe that where you spend your time is where you see your results. So like if I want to spend more time on my peace, if I want to spend more time on my relationship, my kids, my job, my capability, I can always kind of see where those are at. But some of those things aren't things I usually track or question. So I think it becomes an important activity system to incorporate into humans' lives is to start questioning and challenging and seeing where their stress is. And if you ask them why they're stressed, well, you'll get to the root that most people, we pick up our stress and we chose it. And then we create these really tight relationships with it where it's hard to get people out of suffering because it's known suffering. So that all that stuff gets fun. But back to your original question is if you identify with your capability, you'll see that the titles will come and go, but like they'll be mostly titles that you're proud of. Because if you're constantly working on capability and you're constantly growing, and because it's so hard for me to be proud of myself, that I know that when I earn things and when I focus on my capability, that's when I'm like at peace with myself. So in that realm, I think a lot of people we start playing kind of games as opposed to like actually growing ourselves, and that's when I get really proud of myself. And I think people, if you like sit down and struggle and learn at something again, weightlifting, relationships, anything, like that's where you start to like get happy because you did the work.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Man, you said like 10 things in there.
I know.
No, this is good though. But I want to pull out the thing that you said at the end is you talked about growing and how that elicits this sense of fulfillment, this sense of purpose in a way. And I heard something, and I love this aspect of it too. I just want to add it in. Is like, yes, it's growth, but in my opinion too, it's like also giving. Like when I can grow and then I can extend a hand back and give to somebody that maybe in that area that they don't think that they can do, but I've already got further than that. I mean, that's the key to life. And that's what you do all the time is you give to so many people around you, you know? And what do you think about that?
But like my pillar there, and it's like I return to it all the time because like the world's not a great place to be a giver at times too. People take advantage. People will like steal your programming, take your verbiage, whatever. It doesn't matter in that sense. But the biggest pillar, it's like I like quotes. But like
yeah, no, I clicked on your Instagram. I was like, quote, this is easy.
I call them logic landmarks. Like I've gotten to a bunch of points in my life where like I wasn't smart enough or had the conscious to frame what I was thinking into an actual behavior change or like enough logic to change my behavior. So I hunted quotes, I read books, I talked to humans, and I took notes from these conversations and all these things. But one of my biggest pillars, and a lot of this comes from how I'm raised too. My mom's got like one of the biggest hearts in the business too. But in that realm is that help and support are not yours to keep. And if you recognize that every capability you have came from somebody else's help support, even if it was like indirect from a book or a podcast or anything like that, like there's like hoarding all the knowledge and all the help and all the support, I think is one of the biggest travesties of our time. So it's like if you solved a problem that you know, like, and I think a lot of people think their problems are their own, but I think a lot of us go through all the same problems, is like if you can share a quote or you can share a podcast snip or you can sit down and have a coffee with somebody and tell them, hey, and like, because like I do this with like military transition retreats and charities and stuff. The biggest impact point on all these things, particularly with athletes too, changing identity, is for to be around a bonfire at a meal and somebody say, hey, I'm going through that too.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like,
yeah.
And then now like, and again, another quote, but like pain is an adhesive. Like if you've been through it, you can connect with others. Same thing with the help side and the service side is like, if you've already been over the mountain or made like 10 steps ahead of somebody else, like help them, you can connect and you can help and show them the breadcrumbs and the stair steps to success. Not even success, but like growth. And I think the word happy is like, we have a weird relationship with the word happy right now. Anyways, it's become a destination as opposed to like a flowing emotion that we should strive to feel. But I like Naval Ravikant's framework here, but like happiness is just peace in motion. Peace is just happiness at rest. But like in my life now with the chaos and the full-blooded gypsy that I've become, like I try and protect my peace and I try and be more peaceful than I am happy. And then, and I usually find through self-observation that it's the people I'm around where I feel happiness or when I'm alone. And so, but it took me a long time to be at peace and like happy when I was alone. So it's just like all these things kind of weave together. But in that realm, I think help and support are not yours to keep is one of like the pivotal principles in my life.
That's good. I want to double down on the peace aspect of it. Because you said something there of like initially when you were alone, it was hard for you to feel that peace. And I think a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people that being alone, it's like their antithesis. Like they want to avoid it like the plague. And for me, I mean, I love talking to people, but man, my alone time, like that's when I get quiet. That's when I can process the best. That's when also I've asked myself the best questions, because when I'm talking to people and I'm out, I can't ask myself the why 10 times and like really understand, okay, what is my belief about this? And is that the issue? Like this is the surface level. I'm having the symptom, right? Whether it be a conflict or, man, this isn't happening in some capacity. But when I get quiet and be alone, it can be a little bit intimidating initially, but then you actually get to the root of who you are and you get to know yourself better. So talk me through your journey of, man, I didn't find that peace there. And then how did you find that after a little while?
Yeah, and it has been a journey in that realm. That's actually how I found breathing.
Oh, okay, full circle.
Yeah, so the sensory deprivation chamber was becoming popular when I was playing football.
What year was that around?
2015.
Okay.
And so sensory deprivation chamber, for those that don't know, is like a pod, and it's filled with kind of body temp water that's like super dense in salt, so you float. Some people call it the float ting. But supposed to be no light, no sound. And then, so basically it's like a unclenching of the nervous system input from an endpoint standpoint. Very peaceful kind of thing. Recovery's off the charts. If like some people learn languages in there too, it's kind of crazy, but it's really cool.
Wait, I haven't heard that.
No, well, it's like no input. Like you can actually like now hearing is the main thing. It's kind of like a blind person. You take away their sense, other senses improve.
Okay. Yep.
Concept. But anyways, JJ Watt had built one into his bathroom. And this is before the Texans started paying for it. We got a new sports performance guy right after JJ built his. So I went over to his house to do it, and I was supposed to be in there for 90 minutes. And like I'd never been alone with my thoughts really. So my mind was racing. I thought I was spinning, like rotating. Like I don't know if it was my cerebellum or something acting up, but I popped out after like 30, 40 minutes because it just was uncomfortable to me, and I didn't know why. Yeah. It was just me and my thoughts, and I just kind of like overreacted. And then a couple months later, the Texans got a new sports performance coach that paid for all of us to go to this like float tank place if we wanted to. And I bounced some ideas off my doctor about it. He goes, the research is awesome. And so I went back, and I actually, to avoid my thoughts, I started holding my breath in the, because all I had was my watch in there. So I started seeing how long I could hold my breath. And then I got out of there and Googled competitively. I got out of there and Googled how do I hold my breath longer.
That's an athlete.
Yeah. And it was Wim Hof and free diving, and it eventually led me to finding the lever that breath is to improve performance. But it started with my inability to be alone with my thoughts.
Yeah. What and you don't have to share all the details of your thoughts.
Yeah.
But what was coming up for you?
What am I not doing?
Oh, okay.
And because there's always like this uncomfortable friction to improve, but it was built from like an imposter syndrome. Like I went through Arena League, UFL, CFL. I never felt worthy in that realm, and that goes into other depths of like spiritual side and everything too. But which is a whole nother journey. But in general, it was just a lot of talk. Me like talking to like not even talking to myself, just listening to all the things that I wasn't doing and or some endless to-do list of improvement or just the busyness of life kind of thing. So then as I found breathing for high performance, like how to downregulate my heart rate, like all these things, like good things, like the PED side of performance. And then I started applying it to improve decision making. And that's where it started to collide with like psychology and start understanding my own personal philosophy for life. And so I started basically doing everything the breath world had to offer, which included meditation.
Which is very innovative for 2015.
So that was 2015 to 2016, encapsulated in that window. And then by 2017 season, I was using it on the field to like make better decisions. Nice. But I'd again, Naval Ravikant, I'd follow him before he even got on this Rogan podcast, but I think the Rogan podcast kind of came out around this time, maybe 17 or 18. But Tim Ferriss had meditations out there. I was just like seeking people that were doing breathing stuff, and it just happened to be this slow breathing stuff paired with meditation. And people had mental frameworks for meditation, and really it wasn't until I heard Naval's bit, I don't know when exactly that was, because I just did the whole buffet of breath initially. But he views meditation, particularly silent meditation, as the most like powerful lever, because a lot of the other meditations, it's more focus and neuroplasticity training, like follow your breath in and out, add color to it, inhale white, exhale black, and then they shift your focus, like spotlight technique stuff, shift to feel, shift to auditory, what's sounds happening, all this stuff. But when you start actually like actively observing your thoughts and like detaching value to them, like just like your brain is a problem generating machine basically for survival. It's not for like optimal peace and thought. So you have to work.
Wait, say that again, because I don't think people understand that.
Yeah, like thought, like, and like this weaves into what I coach in general, but like go back thousands of years, Buddhism, there's these practices of like viewing thoughts as clouds in the sky. Like, and so if you start generating that relationship with your thoughts and understanding that your brain is built to identify threats and problems. And so I call it a problem generating machine, because there's research on this too, where people like they hire TSA people to look for problem people, and then they take all the problem people out, and they still find people with problem people kind of thing. And so like what you focus on, like in essence, you'll find. So if you're focusing on these negative things, where this gets into one of the problems in psychology that I don't think people understand, is that we have a massive negativity bias. And that's what impedes us from like taking chances on ourselves, like anything in that world. So if you understand the brain and what thoughts are, like they don't hold value unless you give them value. And like it's kind of another Buddhism example is like the longer you hold on to something, the heavier it gets. Like it's like
the example of holding a water bottle out. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where it stemmed from.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why like you can dissolve people's problems by teaching them to let go or understand that they're just limiting themselves. And Jim Quick has some fun books in this category, but like if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Yeah, it's a mic drop moment.
Yeah,
right
and a lot of limitations are just thoughts and stories that we've held on to for way too long. So I think it gets really fun in the meditation world, particularly silent meditation, where I set out to do 60 days of 60 minutes.
Wait, I thought first you meant 60 days of silent meditation.
Oh, hell no.
I was like, wait, what?
I will do like a true silent silent retreat at some point.
I always want to do that.
Yeah, I want to do it international somewhere, particularly in Asia. But anyways, that's what but like until I heard this line from Naval that like reframed how I viewed meditation, he views it as like an email inbox. And so just sitting with start with 3 minutes, start with 5 minutes, and just see what comes up without like emotionally responding or like trying, like, cause like you'll notice like some of my meditations, I was tracking stuff at the time, but like when I was going through my to-do list, like my heart rate was higher.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And all these things. So, but it's fine, but it's like, okay, but you give it enough time and you journal alongside of it just so you can track these subjective things that are happening. You'll see if the same thing comes up every day after day, it's like, maybe I solved that problem. And at some point, like I'll get to like a 10 inbox, or maybe my inbox will be empty one day. Probably not, but you know, but it's just like, okay, I have some type of format now to handle the things that come up in my brain. Yeah. And so if I can, and like a lot of these times are these stories on why I can't do something or why I shouldn't do something. And it's just like, okay, let's look at that at face value. And just through that meditation practice of the 60 minutes, which is a long damn time.
60 minutes, 60 days. Yeah. I mean, that's an hour.
Yeah. And I didn't even get to see, I think I got to like 40 or 45 days, but like I got what I wanted out of it at the time. And I started applying it in my journal. Like I started playing the why game more. 5 Whys is a great game on like particularly like, why do I feel bad? Why does this person bother me? And why am I not being who I want to be? You know, and you'll get to these limiting beliefs that like, if you just look at it, like that's why I think coaches like ourselves are good. And like, it's hard to describe it. Like a lot of people don't like the word life coach. And like, I come into most people's world as a breath and mental skills. But in general, like I'm a thinking partner. That's like, good. You know, it's a very simple thing that I do, but it's like, it's simple, but it's significant. So how do I apply that? Like, because I do it to myself. Like, that's why I think journaling is important. It's like you get the weight of it off your head and your shoulders and you put it on the paper, and maybe that holds some of the weight. But it's my own little therapy session. It's for me. It's private. I just think it's beneficial, at least to do a couple times a week. And then, but anyways, I forgot where this whole rant started, but in the realm of like being at peace with your thoughts, I think.
You did bring it back.
I think the goal is like it's such a funny framework that we don't train the brain to like simplify things and or demystify things or dissolve problems. So I think it's really important to, at some point in your life, sit alone with your thoughts and like at least ask yourself where you feel most peaceful. And I think part of what you're saying is like being alone and being lonely are two massively different things.
1,000%.
So,
right.
And I learned some of this. My girlfriend took me into the backwoods, and most of the time I'm still with her. I'm not alone. But I found as I was transitioning from football too, that I was most apt, and I found this through journaling and found it through tracking it, is like being outside was the start. Hiking by myself was another step. hiking by myself barefoot like got me completely out of my head because I had to like pay attention where my feet were going. And all this eventually found more peaceful feelings in my body, and I just pursued those and trying to harness those where I could.
Yeah.
No, so in that realm, I just think being alone with yourself, like people have all these kind of, I throw around this word stupid too much, but in that realm, they say you got to be alone you got to be able to be alone with yourself to be loved, or blah 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 blah. No, I think it's always like a work in progress dial that's being toggled. That like we'll always have friction from too many forces in life to like be at peace at all times with ourselves. That's why I think in the realm of relationships, it's fun to like always view it as like 3 relationships, even friends, lovers, those kind of things. But it's like, it's your relationship with yourself, my relationship with myself, and then our relationship.
Yeah, that's good.
But if your relationship is out of balance, I find in myself and my relationships, when I don't take care of myself, that's when I focus on that third relationship or their relation. And it's like, no, you're the problem, Brian. you know? Yeah. So it's just like, it's just like a learning experience in life for me, where it's like, I'm just part of what I encapsulated chasing edges to, like initially it was just performance, but it's really like the art of living.
Because I think people see what we're doing. I don't mean to cut you off with it, but it's like, oh, it's just physical. I was like, no, it's so much more than that. Like when you really embody chasing edges or seeking the edge, it's becoming all that you can be in every facet of life, in my opinion. And that's a ever evolving journey. Like we're never going to get there. And I think that there is just a kind of a lie that we tell ourselves. And it's like we're chasing a moving target all the time. But to see yourself grow in those capacities, like, man, that's so cool. And you just get to become more of who you've always been inside. Yeah,
and I think it's just fun we're around so many humans. We all come out of the same schooling system to some extent, where again, I posted it the other day, but another Naval Ravikant. If you haven't listened to Naval's Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss podcast, I thoroughly enjoy him. But like the concept that you're just talking about, this art of living, because it is an art form. Like we are all one-time phenomenons on the planet, and the way we see the world and the way we act into the world is our own art form. It's our own masterpiece. It's performance art, and it's in its own sense. But Naval has this awesome saying that like the only real test of intelligence is if you get what you want out of life.
You posted that quote. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like what do you, and like, but that's the hard question, particularly for the givers of the world. I don't know if you fall into this category as far as like what you want. You seem like a dialed human, but like, but it's hard for the people in this Enneagram kind of concepts too. But like in that realm, for the givers of the world to know what they really want for themselves, because we do focus on others, we do build up others. It's just something to always to be kind of like in your periphery, is like, what do you really want? And then that's why systems and those things solve those problems for me. But in the general sense, I think if you can get really clear on what you want, this leads to like the biggest medicine of all, which is commitment towards something like that, towards another person, towards a goal, towards a body fat percentage, whatever the damn hell it is. But like once you commit and get really clear on what you want, it just becomes this medicinal like cutting of distraction.
You make decisions better.
You make decisions better, and then now you're seeing better feedback on improvement and growth. And now that's just gasoline on the fire.
It's funny you bring that up. So I did, it's maybe 3 years ago, I did some like subconscious reprogramming training and just learning, you know. I nerd out. I get into all these different rabbit holes. But he had me do an exercise. He had all of us do an exercise where we had a piece of paper and we had to write down, I think it was, 100 things we wanted physically, like physical things we wanted, and 100 experiences we wanted to have. I got to 5. I was like, I can't even list more than 5 right now. Because I think, too, at that time, I was just so in the monotony of life of just wake up, go do this, work on the business. Like, I never even got clear of, like, Kelsey, this is what you want. And that might, for people listening, that might sound selfish, but it's one of the most selfless things that you can do is get incredibly clear about what you want. Because as that clarity comes, like you said, the decisions, or, hey, I don't want to do this, or I'm not going to give my time here, it just allows you to become a better human for those around you. Like, people can feel that energy. But that was such a, like, man, that was an eye-opener for me when I got to 5. But I had 95 more to go. Isn't that crazy?
But isn't it, how easy was it to get to 100 things?
No, mine was flipped. All right, so I could do 5 physical things. I maybe got to 10 experiences. Isn't that wild?
So you only got to 5 physical things?
5 physical things.
I just see more commonly than not, it's like I want this house, this life, this income, like these things. I want this coffee maker, you know, it's just like weird things that like that's our sign of like we're there, we're happy, we're X.
Yeah.
But like the experiences are cool, but it's also everybody's different. Like it's like but it's like I get into psychology here because I think it's fun, but I think it's also freeing in the sense if you understand part of the scaling process is that like we can't even talk about like we're talking English, but we're not speaking the same language in relation to like value of words and feelings and experiences. So like a cool do you like give out book recs on here?
Oh
and
yeah,
that kind
give
of
them
thing?
all, give them all.
Yeah, but Stumbling Upon Happiness.
I've never read that one. Who's it by?
Really Daniel Gilbert.
I think I've heard of him, but I've never read the book.
really cool book in that realm. I found it when I was transitioning out of football.
Yeah.
And he gives like a psychology experiment for every point he makes in the book. It's beautiful.
That's cool.
But one of the biggest things that I took from the book is that like I can't compare myself to others. And I can't compare myself to who I was in the past.
That's good.
And nobody can predict the future. All I can really do is live in this small window and hopefully stumble upon happiness. Beautiful book. But he tells you why. Our memory's trash. But one of the cool things in the realm of like comparison and scaling is that I think the example he uses in the book, just to stay on topic there, is your family singing happy birthday to you around like around a cake. Yeah. Like, what is that on your scale of 1 to 10 for you?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I would say close to 9 or 10.
Okay, so like maybe for me it's a 8.4.
Yeah.
So we're talking about birthdays and happiness and family, but we're still talking on different scales. If that like the concept there, and then you understand that everybody has different relationships with all these words and all these things and these values and money and love and whatever, and then. So he makes a bunch of awesome examples that you can't compare yourself to others, which makes sense in the realm of like scaling. But then now it's like even me compared to myself yesterday, like I'm not the same person, and just microscopic changes and differences in values. But like particularly with these self-limiting narratives, like definitely not the same person I was 2 years ago or 16 years ago. You know, when this thing happened, in that realm. Because like we can't, and like he just destroys how bad our memories are too. It's like the grapevine game, and then he emphasizes vocabulary that like I mean, tell me about like prom. It's like
man, throwback.
But like how was prom for you? Like usually we say good, it was fun, I got drunk, you know. It's just like whatever. But in that realm, that's like 8 words to describe what's supposed to be a pivotal point in your high school life, whatever. But unless you sit still for 9 hours, you'll relive pictures and the limo ride or whatever you had going. But we're never going to do that, you know? So our body or our brain compartmentalizes these experiences by like 5 or 6 words. And it's like, okay. And like, I just think it's important to understand how the brain works a little bit in order to like get you out of your own way.
Yeah.
So, and then now like, if you understand decision making in the future, nobody can predict the future, or else we'd all be like professional gamblers in stock market, whatever. But a cool difference or delineation in the brain is that the farther you choose into the future, the more you choose from value, the less you choose from action. And so like I don't know if it's an example from the book or what I just use now in that realm. It's like my brother and his wife are going to a show next month, and they asked me, hey, you want to watch the kids? Yeah, I'm a good brother. Like they deserve the night out, whatever. But it's actually on Friday at rush hour on my busiest day, and like the execution isn't understood and or isn't executed properly because I made a choice from value. So if you understand how the kind of brain chooses who you want to be and how you depict yourself to the world farther in the future, it's better to set, in essence, like short-term goals and long-term goals and like work back to execution. That's part of the psychology of goal setting.
Yeah, no, I got you on that. I want to draw people back to one thing that you said and then get to one other topic. Cool. And then I want a little bit riff on the breathwork stuff. Cool. I could dig into this stuff all day. Yeah. But I want to get you on that part. But one thing that you talked about, I mean, it was probably 10 minutes ago, is just the negativity bias. And I don't want you to riff on that yet because you've already talked about it. But it's really important for the listeners to hone in on that people, I've had this all the time. Man, I just have so many negative thoughts in your brain. I was like, yeah, because your brain's wired for survival. Like, it's not wired to necessarily thrive. And so when people are observing their thoughts, like you shared with them, or sitting in silence for maybe 5 minutes, they're like, dude, this voice is crazy in my head. Know that there is a negativity bias with that. And is there anything else that you want to share with that part of it? Because I just think that's too valuable for people to not grasp, and they think that it's just them versus actually how their brain's wired a little bit.
Yeah, and I got 2 points there.
Okay.
One being just like understand it for what it is, like, because it's really hard to say the animal brain, and some people like just they I think they shortchange what it really is, but the logic of it makes incredible sense in the realm of like we're supposed to remember negative things to survive. Like our brain just wants to care, like really only cares in the biggest summary of the brain is that we're alive or dead. Like 40% of our brain's built to process vision, and that's for like threat analysis, threat perception, and like obviously like the ability to execute like these skills to survive anyways. But in that realm, well, why is remembering negative things important? Particularly, let's go back nature. Like in general, it's like, okay, like my examples are usually like bear bites me. I don't mess with bears anymore, you know? Like I eat these berries and I poop my pants. I don't eat those anymore. I stab somebody in the tribe in the back. I get kicked out because I either saw it or I did it. And so we remember negative things on what not to do. But now we just think about negative things, and it tells us what not to do in a mystical sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, because we're just living on like outdated hardware, or nobody taught us how to run the software kind of thing in that realm. So if you just understand that because like we're just a couple chains away from that now, meaning if I don't do this job and I don't stay in this safe place, because like really like the threat now is like certainty versus uncertainty, as opposed to like bear and safe shelter kind of thing. So if you kind of like weave this now, it's like, okay, if I don't stay in this job, like I just say like one of our biggest problems on like betting on ourselves and reaching our potential is our inability to handle uncertainty. And because like a lot of people stay in a relationship, maybe that's not great because at least they know where their love's coming from. I know way too many humans that stay in a job that they're not passionate about because at least they know where their money's coming from. It's the same reason we have all these routines and systems at home. It's like, hey, you don't want like, but it's crazy the hedonic adaptation of like what our psychological set point for normal and good enough and all these things become. And so I get really juiced up when we start like trying to tear down these frameworks of fear that because like now it's like if you realistically look at life, like if you lost your job and you lost everything right now, you probably have somebody or family, somebody's couch you can crash on, and family. It's no longer I'm out in the nature by myself thing. So, but it's like, but we put the weight of life and death on all these decisions because like if I can't pay my bills, my body still responds with life and death physiology.
Right.
And so,
right.
So because like people put numbers to this, I need 3 positive things to outweigh 1 negative thing, particularly in sports. That's like, but it's becomes this superpower to have like a very short emotional bandwidth response to different stimulus in that realm. Another quote I love is that like the sign of a healthy organism is that emotion is a short-term response, meaning that like a short-term memory and not attaching and holding on to these emotions for very long periods of time or these stories or whatever. And that realm is a superpower for you to move and improve. And so in the realm of this focus on the negative, I think in general, what like the car goes where the eyes goes, what you focus on, and like what's Tony Robbins, like where you focus, where focus goes, energy flows, or something like that. Couldn't be more true but I emphasize this point in my world because I think it's just such a logical point that we just overlook is that thought is a full body decision. And in that realm, just this whole cascade of things in my brain have to happen for me to raise my arm because I'd made the decision to raise my arm. If you think focusing on the negative things and all the scary things in the world and what if I lose like because it's so easy to say, what if I lose my job? What if this person stops loving me? Blah, 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 blah. but like, what if everything works out?
Yeah,
Like, so you
that's a
have to
good
like
reframe.
flip into a framework of
Mhm.
like hunting the good and viewing failure as feedback and all these things
Yeah.
as opposed to failure as my identity.
What's your relationship? Have you always been like that?
No, not at all. Like, and I think it's, again, everybody's under construction. I
Yeah.
combat all this stuff all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I move out of it faster than most people.
Right.
And it's
Right.
that relationship with being really just solving problems, because that's what the brain's generating problems for you to solve and or protect yourself against in that realm. So if you become a really good problem solver, meaning you can solve them fast, either with dissolving them with perspective or understanding best, most efficient practices to get through them. But it's like the exciting part of our times is that like you can internet anything, you can AI anything to solve problems way faster than any other human in the past. Like, and part of the freedom of not having like not being the person of the story in your head in the past is that you can change direction and deviate and learn and grow in anything you want now. I could be I could go after being a firefighter tomorrow. Like, but like,
you're really good though.
yeah, I know, but you know, it's just like I was just at a firehouse the other day, so that's why it popped up. But like, but we chain ourselves to these words and these fears and these jobs and these things that aren't like cemented in stationary like parts of our brain. We can always move and flow and solve problems and work around. And so in that realm, if you start minding your thoughts and sitting with them and asking why, you'll find that a lot of these limiting beliefs are not real. And so you can chase physical capability, mental capability, spiritual like soundness and all these things too. But it's way easier to stay in the certainty of whatever normal is to you or predictable, because that's what the brain is looking for, predictable. So that's why you have your socks in this drawer and your toothbrush here and this night routine and this job. But it's like, what do you want? Like, again, back to our question, like, what do you want for yourself? Like what do you want out of life? And a lot of people, we just like, comfort's the biggest killer for us. Yeah. And life is super comfortable right now. And that's where it's like, if you understand the body, like our body's built to enjoy comfort because that was supposed to be rare. Yeah. Like we're no longer in nature. We're no longer in these harsher environments. So it's like, and it's been going on for hundreds of years, but you have to fight, in essence, like your physiology and all these feelings and like literally keep putting carrots in front of yourself of what you want, and know that the brain and the body aren't built to be excessively successful by any means right now. You have to literally choose, like choose the stress that you want in your life. And is that stress growing you or is that stress killing you? And I think that's a pretty big delineation where like, because like you can look through everybody's life and you'll find out either consciously or subconsciously or consciously or unconsciously, they chose all their stress and they chose not to solve problems. And most of these are problems of inaction as opposed to action because the brain talked you into not acting.
I need you here for another hour.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, because I had like 4 questions. I was like, I want to get on this and this, but I want to pull this briefly. I mean, you could talk about this for another probably 5 hours.
Yeah, well, it just gets fun when you start just like, it's books, it's like TED Talks, it's all these, it's certifications, all these things have taught me things that just weave into other things I think make sense. And then it just becomes like, I think relieving to people once they realize like what their brain and their body are doing in this like blood bag of a vehicle to get towards something that you want in life. Right. And I don't think it becomes super, like it's not super frustrating, but if, like a really cool psychology that used to be called like The Elephant and the Rider. Mark Manson redid it as like the consciousness car, and I like that. It's a little bit easier because I'm a big like what you focus on, like if like you in racing, that it's the car goes where the eyes go. Body and the brain is our body and brain is no different. But in the consciousness car, most people think that this smart, ridiculously logical human is driving the car, when no, all this unconscious emotion and feeling is driving the car, and we're just reasoning. So true. And so our logical brain's just sitting in the passenger seat, hoping you don't drive off a cliff. And we're trying to like show you points on the map. Turn left here. We're trying to talk to them, but feelings drive the car. So you need feelings, you need emotion, you need different variants of passion. Whether that's like even masochism in its own sense, but like in general, if you understand that, like, because like think about, maybe not you, might not be the best example, but maybe a lot of people, and like I went through my own little rut in this last couple years as I traveling too, but like I'll work out tomorrow, you know, but it's like at one point that started with that logic eventually just reasoned into the feeling and the emotion that, oh yeah, I'll just stay on the couch, I do enough, blah blah. But you have like a 5-second window to get your ass up and go, because at one point you had the logical thought and then the feeling trumped the logic.
Yeah.
And so it's just like that's why I think it's so important to pay attention to how you feel, and I don't think enough people know how they feel.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, can we go on this though?
Yeah.
Because then I completely agree with you, 100%. Yep. And I want to get to the breath real quick. We're gonna go a little over this one. But I also think too, allowing yourself to identify the emotion and what are you feeling, super important, because I think too many people don't even know what they're feeling at the point. But also, not all the time all those feelings or emotions driving that car in a good trajectory.
Yeah.
And allowing your emotions, and you embody this, but like allowing your emotions to drive that car all the time, it ain't gonna get you in. It's gonna get you into a brick wall, and it's not gonna be good for you on the back end.
It's gonna burn out your engine,
right?
And people just don't move towards the good things in life.
Yeah.
And there's so many good things in life right now that, anyways. But I don't want to trump where you're going with that.
So to pull it back to that, oh man.
Well, it's just like.
Riff for like 2 seconds, and then I'm going to pull it one more time. How
you feel is important.
Yeah.
Subjectively, not what your watch tells you.
Yeah.
How you feel is very important, and we don't track it. That's why, again, I'm going to keep pounding journaling because it's.
I can't get into it for some reason. I don't know why.
Because you're probably making something it's not. Like just okay, start with it being a download before you go to sleep if you can't fall asleep fast.
Yeah.
Ask yourself how you feel. And like you're a person that, you know, it's like, how do you feel? And like explain it for a page, like a small page. I like motivating things, particularly like if I don't want to journal, I just fast journal and I go, who are you? Who do you want to be? What are you doing about it? Good. Because like that'll get me going or at least get me on path and dialed for the day. But the why game is like you're playing the game in your head on the couch anyways, or while you're driving or whatever. But do you have, and because this is the same with the breath, like, do you have enough awareness to stop and solve the problem? And so that means, do I have enough awareness when I'm feeling, how do I feel comes up again? Do I feel agitated? Am I stressed? Am I low energy? Whatever I am, do I have the awareness to stop and solve the problem and use the breathing, the remote control that I coach to change how I feel? Yeah. Because you can change how you feel, and or we can, like part of what I do with athletes and humans across the board is, can we replicate how you feel? And again, I love Tony Robbins, but he's made $1 billion industry about like, change how you feel, you change how you think. That simple. And then I just emphasize how like if you understand the value that thought is a full body decision, like you're going to change your thoughts because now you understand the consequences to every organ that all these negative thoughts have because it's affecting the whole body. Right. And that's why chronic stress and all these things are the big killers right now and the big problems in humans and that lead to heart issues, fat storage, whatever it ends up being. Like we're just living in a life or death state. It's called short-term physiology in that realm where your body is not planning for the future because you think your life and death always under attack because of the made up thoughts in your head.
100%.
So that's my riff, but that's why breathing's so important. My breathing is not hard. Like breathing's such a simple thing that nobody's coached us on. They've told us to take a breath. Cool, kind of a start, kind of a stop, like an intervention, but it's not enough to change how you feel, to lower heart rate, to change. Like I try and tangibilize all my mental skills to change masks, to go not bring work home to the kids or the husband or wife, whatever, in that realm, to get out of the stress of the gym and start recovering faster. Because the problem is we can't be all gas and no brakes. Because like the down regulation part of the body, the parasympathetic side of the body, if you have a good brake, the gas is better. And so, but you can't have great gas without a good brake kind of thing. So it's just like, so, and like, that's why I coach the breath as like a remote control where it's like volume up and down. And it's not hard. We all have the same remote, like nose, mouth, inhale, exhale, location of movement, and pace. And if you just understand that pace trumps everything, I'd like you to breathe in through your nose at rest and all these things, the remote becomes really simple. But if you don't have enough awareness to know how you feel, which I think is just one of the biggest, maybe the real pandemic, because we can get used to anything. Like humans are incredibly resilient. We're like really cool book is Coyote America. Like coyotes are like the most like adaptable animal on the planet. They're awesome creatures, but like humans were incredibly adaptable. And the level of energy that we have in life, I think is really important. I tangibilize it to a battery. My favorite example to talk about like sleep with or how start to intro feel is because we love our phones. If you went to sleep tonight and you plugged your phone in and you woke up and it was at 60%, you probably solved that problem, right? You get a new phone and a new charger because you don't have enough battery for the shit you want to do with your phone. We don't do that with ourselves.
That's a conviction thought right there.
Yeah, because if you're waking up at 60% every day, we're really good at getting used to it. And I love caffeine and nicotine and all these awesome things, but like if that's what you got to give to life, of course you're only gonna get 60% of the life you want, if that. You know? So okay, like can we recharge our battery? I say human performance is the foundation of high performance. If you negate the human, if you don't recover your human organism body, which an organism responds to light, responds to fuel in the soil, like the plant side of it, the soil it's in. And that's why like I view all my humans as animals, and I use animal analogies when I talk about psychology and those things too. But what's the saying? If a flower doesn't bloom, you don't fix the plant, you fix the environment. We're not, our environments are trash right now. And so if you start fixing the environment, your battery goes up. If you fix your sleep, your battery goes up. And start there. Like sun, sleep, and no stress is a really easy, like hormonal balance kind of framework. And then now you can start like in essence improving upon that. But all this is to like, I just want every human on the planet to have a full battery. And then go after whatever you want. If it's money, cool. If it's love, cool. Like if it's success and fame, cool. I don't care. But if you have a full battery, that means more life. That means higher energy, more passionate life, hopefully. And then you kind of put railings on people with like how long negative thoughts can stay around. And you start seeing these people go in really cool directions. And that's why I love coaching.
We're gonna keep you on a cliffhanger and the people on cliffhanger because we haven't even talked about breath. Like you like mentioned the word breathe, but we haven't really talked about it. But I want to have you back and we're gonna riff on the whole thing for it. But I have a quick story to share where you talk about like emotions. And it'll still call me out a little bit. So about 2 years ago, I was working with a girl and she's like Kelsey, like, how you feeling today? And I think I said good or like something just that you always say,
generic.
Right? Generic. And she's like, no, I don't want you to use that word. And then I was like, I had to think about it. I had 5 words for emotions. 5. Isn't that crazy? And then so she had me download an app and it was called, I think it's like, How Do You Feel? And there's like hundreds of them. I have to find which one it is. I didn't even have the vocabulary for all of it.
That goes back to Daniel Gilbert's book. Like we are handcuffed by our vocabulary. And then our unconscious relationship with the word good and good enough.
Oh my gosh.
Because of course, and like hedonic adaptation just like talks about these psychological set points. A commonly used analogy is like somebody wins the lottery, but they eventually return to like the level of like happiness and sadness they had anyways, if not worse. They fall below baseline. But like we are really good at like, because like, I mean, we have night shift workers. We have people doing ridiculous things with their body, but they've either earned that normal or like unconsciously accepted that as normal and good enough. But it's all these words. If you expand somebody's vocabulary, particularly, that sound like I've never heard the app. It sounds so damn cool.
It's insane. I was like, what is all of this? This is crazy.
But even those people, like even my head coach in college, Pat Fitzgerald, he went out of his way to say great every time. And even if it's a lie, it's almost like that, as if like function as if you're a great feeling person. And again, like I try and poke holes in my own philosophies and learning all the time too. In that realm, but like I cannot discount that thought's not a full body decision. So if I lie and I say great, or like even when I get in ruts, I just like, hey, like this is an as if day. Like you're gonna act as the person you want to be for a day.
Oh, that's good.
And see if you can repeat. And like I won't repeat that same day, but I'll pick up the habits that I had been neglecting. And it's just like but I get the feedback of a great day. And so like if you don't have the energy of the time, just try and put together one great Sunday and start there, and then and see how much you can get done in a day of no distraction and functioning as if you are the, like, I'll try and like emulate like a David Goggins or a Tony Robbins, you know, but like, what do you think they do in a day? And that's where we did, like, we don't value time. Like we, like, again, like I spend, like, when I'm in my dumps of life, which again, it's like, you're a human that's going to experience the entire spectrum of emotion, hopefully in a day. Like Jimmy V had that juicy thing where it's like, you laugh and cry in the same day. Like, that's a good damn day. And so in that realm, I kind of missed the point I wanted to hit, but in that realm, but that's an identity problem too that I usually hit really hard when I talk about guys, because like somebody wants to be happy, but I do this with kids in particular, because if you put a concept or a crutch in somebody's environment, they'll use it, you know, in that realm, or it just becomes a more prominent option. And so when I hear, I'm not going to say names or anything, because maybe some of my humans will listen to this, but when I hear somebody say, I have anxiety, I am anxious.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Versus,
I was talking to Soph about this the other day.
But versus I'm happy. I don't want to say I'm happy either. Like, if I'm not happy, then there's a gap and there's stress and there's friction. But like another, like, paired closely with the negativity bias in the brain is our use of confirmation bias and beliefs, which gets the polarity of like society today. Is that like they've proven that they can show like concrete counter evidence to somebody's stance, and they'll discount it or conspiracy theory it or whatever the hell it is. But it's like, well, all this is just cementing in more certainty for us. Like, that's why we do it. And so in that realm, in the realm of like identifying with emotions, no, stop. Like, yes, there is medically diagnosed depression. Those people might need medication, but like, at what point did these light anxieties and depressions, they were just like an emotional lull of life and whatever, and then we just stayed there.
It becomes an identity. It becomes who you are.
And like, and that'll don't get it twisted. Like, people earn their suffering. And like, if you earn it, it gets harder to let it go.
Like, in the goosebumps to think about that.
But it's like, and like, because I deal with this all the time, but like, in myself in the mirror in that realm is like, you earn this story of life that put you where you're at right now. And some of it you can be proud of, but some of it you just earned, and they're scars you like talking about to yourself. So it's like, okay, can we just like, can we come to peace with it? Can we let it go? Just because we're wrapping up, my favorite book on the planet is Awareness by Anthony DeMello.
I've never heard of that one.
And that helped me change my view of my identity and self. With Christ, like everything. Really cool book. He was a priest for
Awareness by
Anthony DeMello.
Okay, I'll go get it. Add it to the list.
But if I had to recommend one book to anybody, it'd be that one, because I think that's at least the path to life. But I could riff for an hour on this book. But in general, he was a priest for 20 years and then became a psychiatrist, because he was like, basically, like, people were coming in with the same problems, and enough Hail Marys and Our Fathers don't solve a problem, and like abdicating responsibility to God's not the path either.
That's good. That's good. Oh my God, that's good.
And but like, he gets into like, we pick up all of our identity because we abdicate responsibility. Part of it being like, an extreme example in the book is, someone breaks our heart or cheats on us or something like that. Like, it's really easy to blame that person, but it's really hard to like point the thumb and say like, I had poor choice in character. But, and then it like talks, he story tells everything, but he like the abdicating like the responsibility. There's this guy that finds a bomb in his garden from a war or something like that, and he takes it into the police to like report it or turn it in or whatever. And he takes it on the bus, and the bus driver goes, "What's that?" He goes, "It's a bomb I found. I'm returning it." Blah, blah, blah. He goes, "Put it under the seat. It's safer." Like, it's just like, you're just moving the bomb.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes.
And you're not like dismantling the bomb. Maybe not the best example from the book, but anyways, just to kind of wrap it up, there's so many beautiful stories in the book. He does a beautiful job.
Like it.
But he wraps up the book with how I embody like what we talked about earlier, is like being giving and being in service of others. which I believe in the personal relationship in God and Christ and whatever that is to you or humans or whatever you believe in, honestly, in that realm. But he tells this story of a fire starter up in the Arctic. And this is before fire was a thing. He shows people how to cook, how to stay warm in the wintertime and all this. They're obviously in the Arctic. And then before they can thank him, he's gone and he helps another town and another town. But he gains so much popularity that like all the elders are like, this guy's becoming too popular. So they have him killed and they leave.
Sounds like a familiar story.
Yeah, they leave these altars of fire starting things and how awesome this person was. It's the story of Jesus hidden inside this fire starting example. But who was Jesus and why is righteousness to be Christ-like in that realm? So what did Jesus do? He was comfortable with the sinners and the saints. He didn't judge others for the positives or the scars. He didn't like put famous people on a pedestal, and he didn't denounce like the homeless and the sinners. And this is what I try and embody is the realm is that he gave love without expecting anything in return.
That's hard.
And it's really hard. And I'm cussing alongside of it. Sorry, God. But like, and that
he's like, hey, you're talking about me too.
Yeah, I know. But I do it. I spread religion in my own way.
Yeah. Right.
And there's people in the structured religion that may not like believe in that variant, but like I believe that. I think they even say it in the book is the goal is to be like Christ, not worship. And like worship is its own form of meditation and respect and love in and of itself. So I'm not discounting prayer or worship by any means. But if you view the world like that and function inside of it with enough like relative protection on yourself, I think it's a pretty special world to help humans. And so do I burn a lot of my tank helping people? Yeah. But like a common misconception, which I have to always remind myself is even when I get in like there's times in conversations like this where I'll give away too much information because it's part of my business or whatever.
I'll show people back to you.
No, but I'm saying, but like I try and classify it, but like but those are my like intervention points where like, no, like you're spreading love, you're spreading help, you're serving others because you've been loved on, you've been served and you've been supported. So like, that's like the balancing game I play in my soul. But if people start viewing how they treat others, and I think a really clean delineation here is if you're doing something, expecting something in return, you're doing business, not kindness. And for me,
say it again.
If you're doing something, expecting something in return, you're doing business, not kindness. And so if you understand that distinction, am I just walking around all day doing business? No, like I think I'm a kind person. And so when I get these tugs on my leash of like, shut up, Brian, you know, it's just like, don't give these coaches too much. They're not going to hire you, Brian. Like these are my battles I have with myself. But there's reminders that no, like I'm just like, I know something that can help some other people, and I'm going to continue to share that until I don't have anything else to say. And I try and do the same thing with myself. So
I mean, this might be naive of me, but I also think when you give with an open hand, it's going to come back.
Don't get like I don't like really market or advertise what I do. Like it's most of what I've done has been because good humans and people, relationships of like me being who I am. But I always have to sit and ask, who am I? Like, and what am I doing about it too? Because I still want to, I still seeking growth. And it's just weird that the capitalism and financial side always kind of tries to reach its hand in, and you find your own balance and you find back to the art of living, your own expression of life.
Right. Full circle.
Yeah.
All right, we're already gonna get kicked out. But Brian, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I not just on this podcast, but I appreciate you doing the work to be able to communicate some of the philosophies and the ways that you view life, because it takes time. It takes a lot of self-reflection. It takes a lot of courage to look in that mirror, and everybody has the ability to, but so few people do the work to do that. And I know there's one thing or two things or 20 things that people took away from this, and it might be a seed that's planted, that over time is going to be watered and be like, hey, that's what changed. So I just appreciate you. And I like also connect with people that nerd out like this, because I could riff on this for hours, man. It's cool to talk with somebody I'm a very curious person, but that's curious but also rooted in their values. And I think that's incredibly important. So I appreciate you.
Feeling is heavily mutual. Yeah, you're an inspirational human. So it's cool that we collided in Columbus. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Okay, last question. If you say you live forever, right? Hopefully you live forever. It's not going to happen. But say, knock on wood, amen, that you don't die tomorrow. But say it happened, okay? And you could leave 2 things behind. 2 ways of living, 2 thoughts, 2 whatever that is. What 2 things would you want to share with the world?
Wait, so I'm not living forever?
No, you're not living forever.
Okay. That's a heavy question.
It is.
I'm gonna hang my hat on the one, the help and support are not yours to keep. I just think if there's more givers in the world, there's gonna be more love, more help, and then just more connection in that realm. And then this is like advice I'm leaving to humans, is like that's like what I would give to the planet. I'd remind everybody that they're an animal. Like good. Respect your animal.
That's good.
Well, it's just like a really easy example of like what we can embody, because we love our dogs. Is like part of my coaching is like telling like athletes that, like, guys like to say they're a dog anyways, but but like if we could be more dog like, I think we'd be a lot more peaceful and happy, and obviously like outside as well, because I don't think dogs want to be inside all day
I'll attest
either.
to that. My dog plays dead, and I bring him inside. I'm like, oh my god.
But it's like, but like just like respect what you are in nature, is you're an animal, and so a dog just like, and we see it because we've pulled dogs into our modern society. Right. You know, dog gets anxious and like goes crazy inside. Like, what do we do with the dog? We let it outside. We go run the dog. We don't do that as humans on ourselves. So it's like we just keep thinking about our problems, and like basically encapsulates the conversation we had today. Then now you're outside and you're moving. Like, how's a dog tell you it's tired? Pant. In my breathing world, it's like breathing's more important for dogs because they can't sweat. So like even high trained dogs, they read their breathing as arousal. But go move into your breathing changes. You know, like work out till you pant, whatever. But this is where like the lesson. And like, I mean, D.H. Lawrence has an awesome quote on it too, where it's like, I've never seen a wild thing sorry for itself. And
that's, if you think about that, that's heavy. That's but
look at the dog analogy. Dog gets in a fight at the park. Does it come home and call its friends and think about its fight and tell its owner? No. And so it comes home, it drinks its water, eats its food, and goes to sleep and does it, and wakes up and does it all again. And like people have shown that like dogs seeing its owner come home from work and that kind of thing, like it fires up the same parts of the brain as love. So it's just like, regardless, like be a dog, be an animal. And it's like animals solve problems because they have to. They limp because they have to. They don't. I think humans just pick up too many crutches and too many limps. And if you get back to nature, and a lot of what I push is return to nature, but it's this primal psychology of animals that, yeah, they don't have the consciousness we have, but like that's also why we have skyscrapers and whatnot. But like, just be a dog, you know. I think it's it's a simple, fun thing, but it's like that encapsulates outcome detachment and psychology. It embodies that quote I said earlier, like a healthy organism, and healthy organisms' emotions are short-term responses. So we need to get out of this long-term emotion and all this fight and flight, chronic stress physiology, and I bet we feel better. I bet we think better. I bet we live better. So
that's good. That's good. All right, we're gonna have you on again, and we're gonna nerd out about breathwork and cold plunge and all that stuff.
Breathing's fun. Cold sauna and cold plunge are fun things.
Like this is just a precursor for it, because I want to get in your brain first, and then we'll get into the mindset stuff.
I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
No, that's good, man. I appreciate you. Everybody that's listening, I appreciate you joining in. I know y'all got so much just value from this, whether it be a quote that you said, or you repeated, or just a philosophy about life that might change your lens of the world a little bit, or change your lens about yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest things too. So love you guys. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you all soon.
Toodles.